Well, I want to thank Tom and Mike Pence for putting this thing together. And from a defense perspective, you know, the cost of fuel for the Department of Defense has gone up by $8 billion since 1997. That's over a 380% increase. And it's very clear that that's money that could have been used for pay raises, it could have been used for family housing, could have been used for new equipment. But it's not going to be used because it's flowing out in fuel. And secondly, I'm reminded that in this war against the terrorists, the dependence of the United States on foreign fuel is a lever that is being used against us and can be used against us. And if you doubt that, you ought to look at the statements by Chavez of Venezuela, Ahmadinejad of Iran, and others. So now is the time to drill. And you know, I think it's very clear now to the American people that you can't fill up your gas tank with wind. Whether the wind comes from the wind farms that Nancy Pelosi likes so well, that we all support, but should not be used as a substitute for drilling, or whether the wind comes from the Democratic leadership. You have to drill, and if it's true that markets are moving on perception, the perception by the markets that the Democrat leadership will maintain a ban on drilling in the United States is something that will move those prices higher and higher. So it's very important that the Speaker come back, bring this House back into session, and do the responsible thing, which is to increase the dependence or the independence of the United States with respect to petroleum. That means we have to drill. We've got to drill in Alaska, we've got to drill in the deep water off of our coast, and we have to do everything that we can do to make sure that we don't depend on the oil that flows through those narrow straits of Hormuz, where we are regularly harassed by countries that don't like us. And that includes those flotillas and swarm boats that Iran sends out on occasion to get very close to American warships that have to protect that lifeline of petroleum coming through the Middle East. So now's the time to bring the Congress back into session. Now is the time for real leadership from the Democratic leadership.
Speaker Pelosi and I share districts in Northern California. Many of those who live in my rural Northern California district work in Speaker Pelosi's district because they can't afford to own a home there. Now the people who live in my district can't afford to drive from my district to her district. Speaker Pelosi, allow my constituents and yours an opportunity to vote on lower gas prices. Allow us to come back from our vacation and work here and have a vote that can change, that can move gas prices down rather than up.
Commissioner Barrett, South Carolina.
I feel like we're having the same conversation over and over. I want to read you a little quote somebody sent me this past week, which I think really sums up this whole thing. Among the things that make this the greatest nation in the history of the world are leaders who are elected, not appointed. Commoners, not royalty, committed, not obligated. In short, citizens who are of the people, for the people. This is the people's house. The people are trying to speak, Madam Speaker. The lights are off, the cameras are off, but American voices are being heard. Let us vote. Bring us back. Let the voices be heard.
Sometimes you get pretty cynical in this business, but I've been heartened by my colleagues and encouraged, as all of us have, by the American people. So the message is very clear. It's very simple. Madam Speaker, you are elected to lead. We're calling on you to lead. Leadership right now by this nation demands that you call Congress back in, and then we have a vote on more American energy for Americans. It's as simple as that. We'd be pleased to take some questions.
Where's the president? The president has the power to call Congress back, so why isn't he doing it?
Many of us have signed a letter calling on the president to call the Congress back, and I think that's an appropriate thing, a message to get out. However, it's important to appreciate that all the president can do is call Congress back in. If Congress comes back in and the Speaker gavels Congress closed immediately upon gaveling it in, just like they did last Friday, then nothing is solved. This takes leadership on the part of the Speaker of the House of Representatives and we're asking her to fill the void of leadership right now.
Mr. Price, a lot of you talked about in your district, you came back here. I realize this will just be a drop in the aggregate bucket here, but I mean, you all sound like you spent a lot of fuel getting back here, driving all night, flying back here. Is that productive? When you talk about the...
I stayed here.
All right, for the record,
I stayed here.
Many of us stay here. You know what I would like to see is the amount of fuel used for our return trip back here compared to the amount of fuel that Speaker Pelosi's plane is utilizing on her book tour right now. I'll be glad to compare carbon footprints with anybody. But the issue isn't how much money we spent to come back here or how much gasoline we spent to come back here. The issue is leadership. And right now, the House is not being led by the Speaker. And so we're calling on her to lead.
where do you go from there?
Let me speak to that if I may. The American people are hurting. Schools are making